Cairns
All right, so we've
Baptist.
gone WA, 5:30, we've gone in over.
Yep.
Why WA? Like, this is one of those potentially like polarizing questions because in the investor camps, you've got people that's like East Coast or die.
Yep.
It is what it is. And then you've got a whole bunch of other people saying that Perth's the greatest opportunity ever because it's so, the value of property there dropped so much after the mining boom. But then the East Coasters say, well, that's the risk. It's a, it's a very, very, what do they call it, volatile market. So
Totally.
why WA for you?
Okay, so there are a couple of reasons. One of the first one was I personally believe that I'm a little bit overexposed in the East Coast, primarily in Queensland. So I'm like, I just don't. With what they were talking about with like potential land tax changes and stuff like that, I'm just like, look, I'm just too overexposed. I want to take a little bit more of a risk-off approach. Like, let's go somewhere else.
Interesting. So diversification is high up on the list here.
Completely. And then the price, so I wanted a property between 400 to 700. And that kind of cuts me out of most of New South Wales and Vic, unfortunately, which is fine. It is what it is. And so then you really kind of go to the other states and there's like only four other states to go for. So by process of pure elimination, it's like, well, then where's going to be the best capital growth for people? And the data from the buyer's agent just suggested like this location in WA is primed for it.
So data focused as well. Being
Completely.
this is a property you might potentially sell, we've mentioned this earlier, is it's there. How did you assess this from view? Was this something where it's like, I put in the intent where this is something I could sell, I don't know, 5 or 10 years from now? Was that thinking in the decision then?
Totally. So it was a part of it, but even to that extent, like I'm completely fine with things changing. So I will hold on to this for a very long period of time. Where like talking maybe 10 years, maybe 20 years, maybe 30 years. Like I don't think I'll need to sell this down. However, the equity that this will grow, like it will increase in value, and my ability to use that cash elsewhere or otherwise to pay down things or do whatever I want is just optionality for me. Like I know how to play this a couple of different ways, and it just gives me the option for it. Now, to come back to your other question around like how is this slightly different when I look at the property, I'm like, this is more near good schools, near great shopping centers, near the beach. This is like a prime for young families, like even for myself and Hazel. I'm like, I could totally live here. It was like this.
Oh, that comment, we got to pause there. I went to a mastermind in Perth not long ago. I'll say it was like, was it December?
It would have been December, end of November, start of December.
Somewhere around there. And it's like, I think a lot of people have this perception of what Perth is that haven't actually been there. And every time I go there, I'm like, I could live here. It's so beautiful as a city. And then when you look at what you can get in ways of value for a home, like you're talking this right now, spending like $500,000 on a home, 530 to be exact. Yep. How far is this from Perth City, like central CBD?
It's like 25 minute drive.
Okay, so you can get a property 20 to 25 minutes away from Perth CBD on a beachside location where it's sunny a lot of the year. Just for anyone playing at home, fun fact, in Melbourne, we get 43 sunny days a year. In Perth, they get 133. That's the historical average. So for anyone wondering how much sunnier is it in Perth than in Melbourne, that much. And yes, I did look at it in my considerations.
How much did the Premier pay you to say that on a podcast?
Do I need to disclose that I'm a Perth bull? I think I should disclose this.
You totally should.
But this is leading me to the question is like, I find that I am very attractive to the narrative of Perth. And it is a narrative and an opinion. I'm not going to say it's a fact. Where do you stack up on this? Is that from an investment thesis, are you looking at the value proposition of Perth for yourself and that's what you're getting behind? Or is there another factor like mining?
Yeah. So I don't invest based on swings and sort of one-off events. Like do I see this thing sitting in my portfolio until the end of days? Even if it doesn't, like even if this thing doubles and I sell it to pay down debt elsewhere, like that's fine. It is what it is when that happens. But every time I buy a property, it's like, is this asset going to sit in my portfolio for the next 30 years? And this was this one. I'm like, I see similar to you. I'm not as bullish as you are on the growth of Perth. I think it will grow. And I think it's got so much appeal to people who are moving to Australia, but also to people who are in Australia. And it's only going to get more opportunities with greater schools, greater work, etc. And I just go, I think there's going to be good growth over a period of time. I think with the immigration we're bringing in, with the challenges around building and all these things, I'm like, people going to naturally need to go to places that are thoroughly appealing, and the barrier to entry between East and West is just broken, or is about to be broken, and people will just go, cool, I'm happy.
No, it's broken. We can call it broken. You
Cool.
can't live 20 minutes within Melbourne CBD in a house of the quality of the one. I have seen a photo, right?
For $500,000.
No, it doesn't exist.
And so that's my point, which is like, I'm like, this is just a point where people, like even myself, go, WA, huh? I got to pay $2 million for a place in Melbourne to get something similar. And I'm like,
well, that is the equivalence.
Yeah.
I was going to say it 3 times, but 4 sounds better for this podcast.
So that's kind of where it's at, and then the data supported it as well as my personal logic kind of supported it. I'm like, dude, I'm in. Let's go.
I think a little thing I'll throw in on Perth as well, just for another fun fact, is, and this seems odd, but it's their incomes are higher because of the jobs over there in like mining, particularly. So there's actually better markets to support higher levels of rent. So it's interesting that we would consider that, in my opinion, again, that Perth's kind of better set up to survive housing and rental and being able to afford to pay landlords, versus in Melbourne, where if someone's got an astronomical mortgage, they could fall into quite easily into a place where they're not able to afford their cost of living. Like the ratio is very, very interesting there. I find that point absolutely fascinating. I really do.
I don't think it's going to get to a point where people are completely priced out anytime soon. Maybe in the future, but anytime soon, I just don't think it's going to happen.
Keeps things interesting in a huge way from there. So enough of Charlie the Perth, the Perth Bull. Side note: if I could happily live there, if anyone in Perth, which I know a few people who live in Perth listen to this podcast, just know I'm on your side.
Charlie loves you.
I do. I absolutely love Perth.
All right, fellow property investor. If you loved the value from this short video and wanted to know more about how you can win at property investing, check out the full episode by clicking the link on your screen or in the description right now. Alternatively, click subscribe and you'll never miss another one of these videos.